This is in YouTube if you want to watch. But the principle is that you get more or less two vacation days per complete worked month in the previous year. So if you are fiscal year +1, the number of days off that you get in +1 is a reflection of how many months you worked the previous year. And you're supposed to get up to 20 days off a year, which makes 4 complete weeks if you are full-time. And again, if you have worked the full year the year before. So that's the traditional Belgian system. And what we are discussing here today is a complement to the Belgian system, because the Belgian system was and still is against the EU legislation. So the EU legislation give the right to minimum 4 weeks of paid leave per year. So the system we discussed 2 weeks ago was against that rule, because if you on your first year when you start working, you would not receive any days off. So for example, I started like maybe 12 years ago my professional career in Belgium, and it was just after university. So university finished in July or September, and so I started working in September. And this system was not in place. So the first year until the end of December, I didn't have any days off. So I was actually the only one in the office between Christmas and New Year's Eve, because I was the only one who actually started that year. So that was the system without this European holidays. So they now fixed somehow the issue with the European holidays. So if you are hiring somebody out of university that starts in September, you can, if he wants to, use European holidays. So the European holidays doesn't apply to any situation. So for example, if you are changing employer and you're moving from one employer to another, and you're still in the Belgian system, you don't have the right to European holidays. You only get European holidays when you start working in Belgium, so the first year, or if you, for example, you are in between 2 employers, and for example, for half a year or a year, you were not working. So in those situations, it is possible also to use the European holidays. You are not entitled to days off on the first 3 months of your contract with this system. So you need to start working for 3 months in order after 3 months to start having holidays. So for example, if you start working in October, you can only get those days off from the year, the year after. So that's what is called in French a période d'amorçage. You need to work at least 3 months on the job in order to start having days off. And you can only use the European holidays if you have already used all your traditional Belgian holidays. So those are what we call the single holiday pay. So they get paid with the level of your salary. So if you are paid X on a daily basis, then your holidays you will also be paid X. This is not, and I think I mentioned this 2 weeks ago, this is not extra extra cost for the employer, because the money that is spent paying those European holidays is taken out of the double holiday pay that the employee is getting the year after. So instead of getting it the year after, we are moving the money into the year the person is starting or is restarting working in Belgium. So in a normal situation, you get 20 days of a year. So after 3 months, it's the equivalent of 5 days off that were accrued. So after 3 months, you can then take a week off, or the equivalent of 5 days off. Yeah. And then after that, every extra month, you are entitled to up to 2 days a month. It's a bit less than 2 days a month. The European holidays is a right and it's not an obligation. So if you think about the Belgian holiday, it's a right and an obligation. Like even if the employee doesn't want to take days off, which I've never seen in my life, but we never know. Let's take the example of a situation where the employee doesn't want her days off. You are supposed to force them to take their days off. It's a right and an obligation. The European holidays is a right. So if they are asking and they fulfill the condition, they have the right to it, but they have to ask for it. And if they don't want, or they are not asking for it, you don't have to give them those days off. Yeah. So they have the choice between the European holidays or what we discussed 2 weeks ago, having no holidays on the first fiscal year. If you have some rules about when people can take their days off in general, for example, that you want them to take half of their days off in July and August, for example, to avoid situation that we discussed 2 weeks ago where everyone is taking their days off in December because there is a backlog of days off that they need to get rid of. If you have such a policy, you can also use it for your European holidays. So here it's a bit of a case study. It's in French, but I'm just going to explain a bit the logic. So in this situation, the person starts working in July 2024. So just in the future, in July 2024. And he's full-time 5 days a week schedule. From July to December in the Belgian system or the Belgian holidays, he would not be entitled to legal days off. Okay. With this system, after 3 months, so from the 1st of October, he's entitled to have 1 week of holidays, okay, with the European holidays. And then every month is entitled to 2 extra days off. Okay. So let's take, here you have 3 examples where with different starting dates. So if somebody is starting on the 1st of January 2024, if somebody is working on the 1st of July 2024, which is the example I just showed before, or somebody that started on the 1st of November 2024. And you can see the impact over 3 years, whether you decide for the Belgian holidays or the EU holidays. So let's take the first example, starting in January 2024. If you follow the Belgian holidays, you don't have any days off in 2024. And you get, this is a equivalent full-time. So in 2025, you have 20 days off, and in 2026, 20 days off. And it's always 20 days off accrued the previous year. Now, if you were to use the European holidays, in 2024, you would get the 20 days off. And actually, there is a mistake here, because you should after 1 year, you get into the Belgian system, and you get 20 and 20 in 2025 and 2026. If you start on the 1st of July, you only get 10 days off, because it's prorated, so 20 days of a year. So if you only worked 6 months, you can have 10 days off within the EU holidays system. And then after the 2nd year, you can have half of your days off coming from the EU holidays and half of your days off coming from the Belgian system. Because after a while, you are no longer in the EU holidays system. You have to move to the Belgian system. And then in 2026, you are fully into the Belgian holiday system. If you start on the 1st of November, if you remember, I said that the first 3 months you are not entitled to days off, even with the EU holidays. So you can see that in 2024, here, you have no days off. But I mean, this is only 2 months, huh? So in 2024, you can get the 17 days off from the EU system and 3 days off from the Belgian system, which is a reflection of the fact that you worked 2 months in 2024. And then a year later, you are fully into the Belgian system. Okay.